A lone black law graduate stands in a packed courtroom, defending himself against a powerful judge who once mentored him, only to expose that same judge as the true architect of the crime. One man's fight for freedom becomes a stunning showdown of corruption, prejudice, and unyielding courage. Before we begin, like, share and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories that teaches truth and lessons. Now let's begin. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Mr. Carter," Judge Whitfield drawled, his voice slow and deliberate, "you stand accused of tampering with state evidence. How do you plead?" "I plead innocent, Your Honor," Jamal Carter replied, his tone steady though a bead of sweat slid beneath his collar. A hush swept the courtroom. Cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward. It was an extraordinary spectacle, a 26-year-old black law graduate representing himself against a veteran jurist with 3 decades on the bench. And the judge presiding over the case? The very same man Carter now accused of corruption, Raymond Whitfield, a titan of the state judiciary, known for his ruthless efficiency and whispered connections to deep political pockets. Jamal's ordeal had begun 6 months earlier, when a sealed file he had reviewed as a legal intern mysteriously surfaced on a blog. The leak implicated a powerful senator in contract fraud. Within days, investigators announced that Jamal's access credentials had been used to copy the documents. He was suspended, his name splashed across headlines as the intern who hacked justice. But Jamal knew the pattern, the way black men in courtrooms were too often presumed guilty before the first exhibit was shown. He also knew something darker, that Whitfield himself had quietly pressured him to bury evidence during that internship. When Jamal refused, the judge's tone had turned icy. "You don't want to make enemies in this town." Now, in the echoing courtroom, Jamal stood alone at the defense table, a single legal pad in front of him. "Permission to question the court's impartiality," he said, voice carrying beyond the oak benches. "You may speak," Whitfield replied, lips tight. "With respect, Your Honor, I move for recusal. You were a central figure in the original investigation." Gasps rippled through the spectators. Whitfield leaned forward. "Are you accusing me of bias?" "I'm accusing you of involvement." Jamal's words were measured, but a tremor of anger laced them. "The digital trail shows a transfer of restricted files to an unregistered drive, hours after you personally logged into the evidence room." The judge's gavel struck again. "Speculation. Sit down." "I have security footage," Jamal countered. The prosecutor objected, but Jamal pressed on, his voice sharpened by months of sleepless preparation. He described a pattern of late-night access logs, unexplained gaps in the chain of custody, and a payment, $5,000, wired to a dormant account connected to a lobbyist under federal investigation. Each revelation tightened the silence until even the gallery of journalists barely breathed. Whitfield's eyes flashed, but he forced a neutral tone. "Young man, you tread dangerous ground. Hearsay will not save you." "Hearsay doesn't leave a digital fingerprint," Jamal shot back. The jury shifted, their attention caught. This wasn't merely a defense, it was an indictment. Then came the first twist. Mid-testimony, a clerk entered with a sealed envelope addressed to the court. Whitfield slid it open, skimmed the contents, and his jaw tightened. "Recess," he barked. Jamal watched him retreat to chambers, the envelope clenched like a secret. Reporters surged for the exits, sniffing scandal. Moments later, Whitfield returned, composure restored but eyes colder. "This court will reconvene tomorrow morning. Until then, Mr. Carter remains in custody." The bailiff approached. Jamal caught the judge's gaze, a flicker of something unreadable there. Fear. Fury. In the holding cell that night, Jamal replayed every detail. Who had sent that envelope? Why the sudden recess? He sensed the trap tightening, yet beneath the dread, a spark of triumph burned. He had cracked Whitfield's calm facade. But another danger loomed. His one ally, an investigative reporter named Lila Hayes, called from a blocked number. "Jamal," she whispered, someone's tampering with the evidence locker again. The key logs don't match. And there's talk of a missing flash drive, one that could clear you completely. Before he could ask more, the line went dead. When court resumed the next morning, the gallery buzzed with rumors. Whitfield appeared immaculate, robes flowing, expression carved from stone. "Mr. Carter," he said, "new evidence has emerged, an eyewitness who claims to have seen you copying those files." Jamal's pulse raced. "Produce the witness." A door opened. A former colleague stepped forward, his old friend David, the intern who had once vouched for him. Jamal's chest tightened. "David?" David avoided his eyes. I saw Jamal near the terminal the night of the leak," he stammered. Gasps erupted again. Jamal rose slowly, forcing steadiness. "Your Honor, may I cross-examine?" Whitfield allowed it with a thin smile. Under questioning, David faltered. Timelines blurred, details slipped. Jamal pressed harder, exposing contradictions until David's story frayed. Finally, Jamal produced a copy of a bank record, another quiet discovery from Lila's late-night calls. "Is this your signature on a check deposited 2 days after the leak? From a consultancy tied to Whitfield's campaign donors?" David's face drained of color. "I needed the money," he whispered. The courtroom erupted. Whitfield slammed the gavel. "Order." But the authority in his voice had cracked. As the judge called another recess, Jamal locked eyes with him. Beneath Whitfield's mask of dignity, Jamal glimpsed the shadow of panic. Outside, rain streaked the courthouse windows. Lila waited near the steps, phone hidden in her coat. "I found it," she murmured, "the missing flash drive, its metadata untouched, proving the leak occurred after Jamal's credentials were deactivated." But before Jamal could respond, a black sedan rolled to the curb. 2 men in suits stepped out, their faces hard. One held a warrant. "Mr. Carter," the taller one said, "you're coming with us. Federal jurisdiction." The crowd surged. Cameras flashed. Jamal met Lila's eyes, the flash drive still in her hand. "Don't lose it," he said as the agents closed in. The rain fell harder, drumming a verdict only the next chapter could deliver. The federal agents' grip tightened as they guided Jamal through the rain-slicked corridor of the courthouse basement. Their badges flashed under the fluorescent light, Department of Justice, not local law enforcement. "Mr. Carter," the taller agent said, voice flat, "you're wanted for questioning in relation to federal obstruction." Jamal kept his shoulders square. "Obstruction? By defending myself?" "Evidence suggests tampering with sealed records," the agent replied, though his eyes flickered, uncertain, almost apologetic. They ushered him into a windowless room. Hours bled by. No lawyer, no calls. The hum of the air conditioning became a drumbeat of tension. Finally, the door opened. To Jamal's shock, the federal prosecutor herself entered, a sharp-eyed woman named Elise Tran. "You've stirred quite a storm," she said, placing a slim file on the table. "Judge Whitfield called in a favor. But we've been watching him for years." Jamal's heart kicked. "So you know he's corrupt?" "We suspect," Tran corrected. "But suspicion isn't proof. What do you have?" Jamal recounted everything, late-night access logs, the hush money payment to David, the flash drive. Tran listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she stood. "Stay calm. We'll verify." The next morning, Jamal was escorted back to the state courtroom, not in handcuffs but under quiet federal protection. News crews swarmed the steps. Word of the DOJ's involvement had leaked, and speculation rippled like wildfire. Inside, Judge Whitfield sat poised, though the faint twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed sleepless hours. "Mr. Carter," he said coolly, "are you prepared to continue?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jamal replied, voice steady. "And I move to introduce new evidence." Gasps swept the gallery as Lila Hayes stepped forward, holding the recovered flash drive in a clear evidence bag. "This drive," Jamal announced, "contains the original leaked files. Metadata shows it was copied after my credentials were disabled. More critically, the login trace corresponds to an administrative override, an override accessible only to senior judiciary members." He turned deliberately toward the bench. "Members like you, Judge Whitfield." The courtroom erupted. Cameras clicked, journalists scrambled. Whitfield's gavel hammered. "Baseless accusation," he thundered. "This court will not tolerate slander." "Then allow an independent forensic review," Jamal countered. "If I'm lying, the truth will clear you." The judge's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, the doors swung open. Elise Tran strode in, flanked by federal marshals. "Your Honor," she announced, "the Department of Justice has secured a warrant for immediate seizure of court evidence and electronic records." The room fell silent, a collective intake of breath. Whitfield rose, his robe billowing like a dark wave. "You overstep." "No," Tran said firmly. "We execute federal law." As agents moved to secure the bench computer, Whitfield's composure finally cracked. "You think you can humiliate me in my own court?" he hissed at Jamal. "This system was built for men like me. Not you." The venom in that final word hung in the air, an unguarded flash of prejudice that silenced even the reporters. Jamal met his gaze. "That's exactly the problem, Your Honor." The twists came fast. Under questioning, David confessed fully, Whitfield had promised him a clerkship and cash to frame Jamal. The bank transfers corroborated his testimony. Forensic analysts confirmed the flash drive's metadata, time-stamped after Jamal's access ended and traced to a terminal registered to Whitfield's chambers. By afternoon, federal agents escorted the once untouchable judge from the courtroom in handcuffs. The image of Whitfield, stoic mask shattered, wrists bound, flashed across every major network within minutes. When the jury returned, the verdict was swift, not guilty on all counts. Jamal felt the weight lift, but victory tasted bittersweet. Months of suspicion and silent prejudice could not be erased by a single ruling. Outside, reporters thronged. "Mr. Carter, how does it feel to defeat a sitting judge?" He paused, the autumn sun breaking through the clouds. "This isn't about winning," he said quietly. "It's about proving the law belongs to everyone, or it belongs to no one." Lila stepped beside him, recorder in hand. "You've changed the conversation," she said. "Maybe," Jamal replied. "But the conversation shouldn't have started with my freedom on the line." Later that evening, Jamal returned alone to the empty courtroom. The wooden benches creaked in the dim light, the scent of old paper lingering like memory. He placed a hand on the defense table, the place where he had stood against power, prejudice, and fear. From the shadows of the gallery came a low voice. "Impressive work, Mr. Carter." Elise Tran emerged, her eyes thoughtful. "We could use someone like you in the Department of Justice. Ever considered federal prosecution?" Jamal allowed a faint smile. "I've considered a lot of things these past months." She extended a card. "Call me when you're ready to keep fighting." He slipped it into his pocket, the future wide and uncertain, but finally his own. Outside, the courthouse clock struck midnight. The echo carried across the quiet city, a reminder that justice, however slow, could still arrive when someone refused to bow. And Jamal Carter, the young black law graduate who dared to defend himself, walked into the night, free, unbroken, and unafraid of the battles yet to come.